Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Nathan Pierce was 45 years old when he met Olivia at a tech conference in San Francisco. He was an architect and owned a sustainable design firm in Denver that had been quietly thriving for over a decade. She was a sales manager for a software company, always smiling, full of contagious energy. The connection was instant. Olivia seemed fascinated by everything Nathan said, his eco-friendly home designs, his trips along the Pacific coast, even his weekend stories about restoring old furniture. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm during conversations, and by the end of the night, they'd exchanged numbers with the promise to see each other again. Dating was a whirlwind. Olivia lived in Boulder, just 40 minutes from Denver, and in the first few months, they saw each other 3 or 4 times a week. She met his friends, he met hers. Nathan felt young again, as if he'd finally found someone who truly understood him after years focused only on work. Olivia spoke about the future with a certainty he'd never experienced before: marriage, a bigger house, maybe even kids if it wasn't too late. 6 months after their first meeting, Nathan proposed to Olivia during a weekend getaway in Aspen. She said yes before he could even finish his sentence, her eyes gleaming with tears that seemed absolutely genuine. The wedding was intimate, just 20 guests, at a cabin on the shores of Lake Tahoe. Olivia chose a simple, elegant dress, Nathan wore a light gray suit. The ceremony was moving. She'd written vows about finding her safe harbor, about building a life based on trust and true love. Nathan's chest tightened with emotion. He believed every word. The first few months of marriage were exactly as Nathan had imagined. They moved into a larger house in Cherry Creek, a quiet Denver neighborhood with century-old trees and wide streets. Olivia brought her things, they blended their furniture, and created a space that was truly theirs. She cooked on weekends, he tended to the garden. There was a comfortable routine, a sense of partnership Nathan had never known before. He felt complete. But 4 months into the marriage, something changed. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. Nathan noticed Olivia had stopped wearing her wedding band. He first saw it on a Tuesday morning as she made coffee before heading to work. Her left hand was bare, just a faint tan line where the ring used to sit. Nathan frowned. "Where's your ring?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Olivia glanced at her own hand as though she'd forgotten something trivial. "Oh, it's been feeling tight. I guess I've put on a little weight, or maybe it's the heat. I'll take it to the jeweler to resize it this week." The explanation made sense. Nathan nodded and didn't think much of it. But a week later, the ring still hadn't returned. He brought it up again over dinner. "You haven't taken it in yet?" Olivia sighed, a hint of irritation in her voice. "Haven't had time, Nathan. I've got big client meetings this week. And by the way, I don't want to wear it in those meetings. It helps sales if clients don't know I'm married. It's just business strategy." Nathan felt a strange discomfort in his stomach, something he couldn't quite name. Business strategy? Yeah. Some clients are older, conservative men. If I seem available, they pay more attention and close bigger deals. It's just professionalism. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Nathan wanted to argue, to say it made no sense, but he swallowed his words. He didn't want to come across as controlling or jealous. So he just nodded and changed the subject. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. In the days that followed, Nathan began noticing other things. Olivia was constantly on her phone, fingers gliding across the screen with an urgency that hadn't been there before. She'd laugh at messages she never shared and always turned the phone face down whenever he came near. When Nathan asked, "Who is it?" she gave vague answers: "Just work, my boss, annoying client." One night while they were watching TV, her phone buzzed 3 times in a row. Olivia picked it up, read the messages, and smiled in a way Nathan hadn't seen directed at him in weeks. She got up and went to the bedroom, speaking softly on the phone for nearly half an hour. When she came back, she said it was a work emergency she had to handle. Business trips also became more frequent. Olivia had always traveled occasionally, it was part of her job, but now it was last-minute trips, whole weekends away, conferences in cities Nathan had never heard of. She'd return tired and distant, and whenever he asked about the trips, her answers were generic and rushed. Nathan tried to convince himself he was being paranoid. Maybe her workload really had increased. Maybe he was just being insecure for no reason. But then came the night that changed everything. It was a Thursday, almost midnight. Olivia had gone to bed early, claiming a headache. Nathan stayed downstairs finishing up sketches for a commercial project. When he finally went upstairs to the bedroom, he saw Olivia's phone glowing on the nightstand. She was fast asleep, breathing slow and steady. The screen flashed with a notification. Nathan didn't want to look. He really didn't. But something stronger than reason pulled him forward. The message was from someone named Caleb. Today was perfect. Love you. Nathan felt the world collapse. His hands shook as he picked up the phone. The screen was still unlocked, Olivia had forgotten to set a passcode. He opened the messaging app and started scrolling. What he saw in the next few minutes shattered any hope that this was a misunderstanding. Months of conversation. Hundreds of messages. Caleb and Olivia wrote to each other like lovers, like people sharing a deep and secret intimacy. There were photos, not explicit, but intimate enough to leave no doubt. Intertwined arms, knowing smiles, kisses on cheeks that were clearly more than friendship. The messages were romantic, filled with "miss you, can't wait to see you, you mean everything to me." There were references to hotel meetups, dinners at restaurants Nathan had never heard of, trips Olivia had claimed were business but were clearly with Caleb. And then Nathan found something even worse. A conversation from 8 months earlier, 2 months before he and Olivia got married. Caleb had asked, "Are you sure about this wedding?" And Olivia replied, "It's not what I want, but I need to secure financial stability first. Once we're settled, I'll handle it and we'll be together for real." Nathan reread the message 3 times, unable to fully process what he was seeing. Olivia had married him knowing she was cheating. Worse, she'd married him as part of a plan. She wanted access to his assets, to his financial security, before moving on to the man she truly loved. Nathan was just a means to an end. Anger hit him like a wave. He wanted to wake Olivia right then, scream, demand answers. But something stopped him. A cold, calculating voice inside him said, "Not yet. If you want justice, you need proof. You need to be smart." Hands still trembling, Nathan started taking screenshots of everything: conversations, photos, dates, locations. He emailed it all to himself, creating a neatly organized folder of undeniable evidence. Then, carefully, he placed the phone back exactly where it had been and left the room. He didn't sleep that night. He stayed in the living room, mind racing, planning every next move. The next morning, Friday, Nathan took action. As soon as Olivia left for work, he called a divorce attorney a fellow architect friend had used years ago. He booked an emergency appointment for that afternoon. Then he hired a private investigator. He needed to know the full extent of the affair, where Caleb and Olivia met, how often, whether there was anyone else involved. The investigator, a man in his 50s with tired eyes and a raspy voice, took the case and promised results within 48 hours. Nathan had another idea too. He and Olivia shared an iPad that she occasionally used for work when her laptop wasn't handy. Nathan knew the password, she'd never made it secret before. He installed a discreet monitoring app that would give him remote access to emails and messages on the device. It was invasive, maybe even illegal in some contexts, but Nathan was past caring. He needed the full truth. That Friday afternoon, Nathan met with the attorney. He showed him all the evidence and explained the situation. The lawyer, a man named Gregory Fletcher, reviewed everything with a grave expression. "This is serious," Gregory finally said. "We have clear proof of adultery and, more importantly, evidence she entered the marriage in bad faith. In Colorado, that could significantly affect asset division. If we can prove marital fraud, you could walk away keeping most of what was yours before the marriage." "What about assets acquired during the marriage?" Nathan asked. "Only a few months married. You said the house was yours before, right? And the architecture firm too?" "Yes. Everything we have together is just furniture, our merged bank accounts, and her car that I helped finance." Gregory nodded. "Then we're in a strong position. But I'll need you to keep gathering evidence. The more we have, the better." Over the weekend, Nathan did exactly that. The investigator worked fast, and by Sunday morning, sent the first report. There were photos of Olivia and Caleb entering a boutique hotel in Lodo, a trendy part of Denver. Pictures of them walking hand in hand through Washington Park. A short video, shot from a distance, of the two kissing in the parking lot of Olivia's office. The investigator also dug up info on Caleb, 38 years old, also worked at Olivia's tech company in product development. Single, no kids, lived in a rented apartment in Capitol Hill. But it was the shared iPad that revealed the most devastating truth. Nathan remotely accessed Olivia's emails and found a message exchange between her and Caleb from 9 months earlier, just 1 month before Nathan proposed. The email subject line read, "Our plans." Caleb wrote, "I know you have to do this for security, but it'll be hard watching you marry someone else. Promise me that once things settle, we'll really be together?" And Olivia replied, "I promise." Nathan is good, but that's all he is, good. Safe. You're the one I truly love. I just need a year or two to secure financial stability, maybe get access to his investments and assets. Then we'll end this and start our real life. Trust me. Nathan read this sitting at his home office on Sunday night while Olivia watched a show in the living room. He felt something break inside him, not his heart, because that was already shattered. It was something deeper. His image of himself, of his judgment, of his ability to trust. He'd been a fool. A complete fool. But the sadness quickly gave way to cold calculation. Nathan wasn't just going to divorce her. He was going to make sure Olivia and Caleb paid for every lie, every manipulation, every moment of humiliation they'd caused him. On Monday morning, Nathan called the investigator with new instructions. "I need you to find out everything about Caleb. Where he works, his employment history, whether he's seeing anyone else, a girlfriend, ex-wife, anything." The investigator came back with answers within hours. The company where Olivia and Caleb worked had a strict policy against undisclosed romantic relationships between employees in the same department or working on joint projects. Olivia and Caleb had collaborated on at least 3 projects in the past year. If HR found out, they'd both be in serious trouble, possible termination, loss of bonuses, a permanent blot on their professional records. Nathan smiled for the first time in days. He had a plan. The following Wednesday, Nathan put his plan into motion. In the morning, he called Olivia and suggested a surprise lunch at one of their favorite spots, a charming restaurant in the Highlands neighborhood with mountain views. Olivia seemed genuinely surprised and touched by the idea. "Of course. That's so sweet of you, Nathan. Noon? Perfect. Love you," he said, the words tasting like ash. "Love you too," she replied, and Nathan hung up before bile rose in his throat. Then he made another call. He'd gotten Caleb's number through the investigator and, pretending to be a tech recruiter from a major company, scheduled a business lunch to discuss an exceptional career opportunity. Caleb, ambitious and unsuspecting, accepted immediately. The location? The same restaurant. The time? Noon. When Nathan arrived at the restaurant at 11:45, his heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He reserved a table in the middle of the dining room, highly visible. Ordered a sparkling water and waited. Olivia arrived first, always punctual, wearing a blue dress Nathan had bought her months earlier. She smiled when she saw him, walked over, and leaned in to kiss him. Nathan responded mechanically. "This is so romantic," she said, sitting down. "I really needed a moment like this with you." Before Nathan could reply, he saw Caleb walk in. The man looked around, clearly searching for someone. Nathan subtly raised his hand. Caleb walked toward the table, and then stopped abruptly. His eyes widened when he saw Olivia. Her face instantly went pale. "Caleb," Nathan said calmly, gesturing to the empty chair next to Olivia. "Thanks for coming. Please, sit." Caleb froze. Olivia looked like she couldn't breathe. Nathan continued with an icy calm that even surprised him. "I imagine you're both confused," Nathan said, opening a folder he'd brought. "Let me clarify. Caleb, there's no job offer. You're here because I wanted this conversation to happen face to face, with both of you present." "Nathan, what?" Olivia began, voice trembling. "Let me finish." He placed a stack of papers on the table. Printed photos from the detective, Olivia and Caleb at the hotel, in the park, kissing. Screenshots of their messages, including the ones about the marriage being a stepping stone. Copies of emails exchanged months before the wedding. And on top, the already filed divorce papers. The silence at the table was deafening. Olivia stared at the documents as if they were venomous snakes. Caleb took a step back, his face turning red. "Nathan, I can explain," Olivia tried again. "No need," Nathan cut her off. "It's all here. Months of betrayal. A marriage built on lies and manipulation. You married me to get access to my assets, planning to divorce me once you'd secured what you wanted. I'm not interested in explanations. I'm interested in consequences." He turned to Caleb. "And you? You knew she was married. You knowingly took part in this. You worked together, violating your company's policies. Congratulations." Caleb opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Olivia began to cry, silent tears streaming down her face. "Please, Nathan. I made a terrible mistake. But You didn't make a mistake," Nathan said, his voice sharp as glass. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is arguing over something silly. You planned this. You deceived me, married me knowing you were lying, and kept cheating while I believed every word you said. That's not a mistake. It's premeditated betrayal." He stood, picking up the folder. "I filed for divorce on Monday, on grounds of adultery and marital fraud. In Colorado, that means asset division will heavily favor me. The house, the firm, the investments, everything that was mine before stays mine. You walk away with what you brought in. Oh, and that car I helped finance? Hope you can handle the payments on your own." Nathan looked at Caleb. "And you? Imagine my surprise when I found out your company has very strict policies about undisclosed relationships. I've already sent all this evidence to HR, hope the affair was worth your job." Olivia sobbed loudly. "Please, don't do this. I'll lose my job. My career." "You should have thought of that earlier," Nathan said, turning to leave. But then he paused and looked back at Caleb. "By the way, she's all yours now. Good luck with someone who marries for money and lies so easily. If she did this to me, she'll do it to you too. Enjoy your lunch." With that, Nathan walked out of the restaurant, leaving behind two stunned people and the life he'd built on lies. In the weeks that followed, everything unraveled for Olivia and Caleb. HR launched an immediate internal investigation. Though both tried to claim the relationship started after Olivia got married, a line Nathan easily disproved with dated evidence, the company took a firm stance. Olivia was fired for violating the code of conduct and for using company resources, corporate emails, business trips, for personal matters. Caleb received a 3-month unpaid suspension and was transferred to the Salt Lake City, Utah branch, effectively a professional exile. The divorce moved quickly. Nathan's attorney delivered exactly as promised. With proof of marital fraud, the judge ruled that Olivia had no claim to Nathan's significant assets. She kept her clothes, some furniture she'd brought, and the car, now entirely her debt. Nathan retained the house, his architecture firm, and all investment and savings accounts. Financially, the marriage was treated as if it had never truly existed. But Nathan didn't stop there. He strategically shared the truth with key people in their social circles, not maliciously or dramatically, just answering honestly when friends asked about the sudden divorce. Found out she'd been cheating since before we even married. It was all planned. The news spread naturally. Olivia, who'd always prided herself on her image as a successful, trustworthy woman, watched her social reputation crumble. Mutual friends sided with Nathan. Invitations to events stopped coming her way. The relationship between Olivia and Caleb, the great love that was supposed to justify everything, didn't survive reality. Without a stable job, without money, without the Cherry Creek house she'd imagined sharing with Caleb someday, the fantasy dissolved. Caleb, isolated in Salt Lake City, began to see Olivia not as his dream woman but as the reason his career had been ruined. They broke up 3 months after the restaurant confrontation, in a bitter phone argument full of mutual accusations. Meanwhile, Nathan began the long process of rebuilding himself. He sold the Cherry Creek house, it held too many painful memories, and bought a modern loft in Denver's Rhino Arts District, an industrial space converted with high ceilings and plenty of natural light. He threw himself into work, accepting projects he'd previously turned down for lack of time. His architecture firm thrived. He also returned to therapy, something he'd abandoned years earlier, and realized that talking about the betrayal, processing the pain, was essential to not letting it define him. 6 months after the divorce, Nathan started dating again, not looking for anything serious, just reminding himself that life existed beyond betrayal. He traveled, Iceland, New Zealand, places he'd always wanted to see but never prioritized. He picked up old hobbies, returned to climbing in the Rockies, bought a new guitar, and started taking lessons again, something he hadn't done since college. Then, unexpectedly, he met Renee. It happened at a contemporary art exhibit in Rhino, an event Nathan attended alone just to appreciate creativity and beauty. Renee was a freelance photographer, a few years younger than him, with short brown hair and eyes that genuinely paid attention when someone spoke. They started talking in front of a light installation and didn't stop for 2 hours. There was no rush, no pressure, just a genuine connection built on honest conversation and shared interests. It took 3 months for Nathan to feel comfortable calling it a relationship. And even then, scars remained. He was more cautious now, more aware of signs, less willing to give himself fully without first building trust. But Renee was patient. She understood that Nathan carried wounds that needed time to heal. A year after the restaurant confrontation, Nathan was in a completely different place, not just geographically, in his new loft and restructured life, but emotionally. He'd learned hard lessons about trust, about the limits of naivety, about the importance of acting quickly when something's wrong. He'd realized that subtle signs, a missing wedding band, excuses that don't add up, eyes that avoid yours, can reveal monumental betrayals, and ignoring your gut can cost you dearly. But more importantly, Nathan had learned that being deceived didn't make him weak or stupid. He'd been human, vulnerable, open to love. And when he discovered the truth, he acted intelligently, gathered evidence, protected his interests, and ensured justice was served. He refused to be a passive victim. He reclaimed control of his own story. One autumn afternoon, Nathan was in his loft with Renee, the two working side by side, he on new architectural projects, she editing photos from a series on urban landscapes. Renee reached out and touched his hand, a simple, natural gesture. Nathan looked at her hand and saw something he hadn't seen in a long time, a simple silver ring she wore on her index finger, not a wedding band, but a piece of jewelry that had belonged to her grandmother, something she wore every day with pride. "You always wear that," Nathan remarked. Renee smiled. "Of course. It was my grandmother's. She used to say symbols matter. That when you wear something representing commitment, to a person, to memories, to values, you don't take it off just because it's uncomfortable or because you want to hide it. You wear it because it means something." Nathan nodded slowly, feeling an old weight finally dissolve. "Symbols really do matter," he said quietly. And for the first time since he'd seen Olivia's empty left hand months earlier, Nathan felt he could trust again, not blindly, not naively, but with eyes open and a heart guarded by hard-won wisdom. He'd survived the storm. He'd found his way back to himself. And now, finally, he was ready to build something new, something real. The lesson was clear, carved into every decision he'd made since that devastating night. When signs appear, a missing ring, mismatched excuses, eyes that avoid yours, don't ignore them. Investigate. Act. Protect yourself. Because the one who moves quickly, with intelligence and courage, doesn't just survive betrayal. They transform it into freedom, into a fresh start, into a second chance at an authentic and fulfilling life. And Nathan Pierce, standing in his loft bathed in late afternoon light, with a woman who wore her jewelry proudly beside him, finally understood that he'd done exactly that. He'd turned the worst betrayal of his life into his greatest opportunity for rebuilding. And that, in the end, was the best revenge of all. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.